Hello everyone and welcome back to part 4 of this tutorial. So in this video we're going to add the ability to spawn bombs. So in order to do that, first of all let's create uh, our sprites folder. This one will contain the sprites for the bomb and its explosion in the different directions. So here are the assets. Let me bring them here. This one I don't think we'll be using much. This one, this one, and this is the bomb we're going to use. Let's import all of these in Unity. I'll upload them and leave the link in the description. Now that we have those, let's proceed into creating a prefab for the bomb. So let's grab this one here. Also, we have to make sure that the size for these is set correctly. It has to be 32. And as for filtering here, we don't need filters because it's pixel art, so point no filter. Hit apply. Before that, I want to show you the effects of of the filtering. What does it do? So I'll put it back to bilinear. Okay, now let me bring this here. Just a second. The sorting layer. Let me bring it up. We'll sort out the correct layer later. But as you see here, it's blurred on the on the sides. So what gets rid of that blur is this filtering here. We will set it to point no filter and hit apply. You see now it's crisp. Okay, so this is going to be the prefab for the bomb. What does the bomb have? First of all, let's set it in a good position, and I want its center to be, maybe it's better for its center to be in the bottom rather in the middle, but we will leave that for later. So the bomb will be a physics object. First of all, let's name this to bomb without the underscore 0, and we will add a rigid body to D, which is going to be kinematic rigid body with is set to continuous, and we will freeze everything here. Okay, we will also add a collider for this, so it's going to be a circle collider 2D, and let's position it correctly. Actually, you know what? Maybe it's better to add a box collider because all of our objects are boxes here. Even the circle will have the same diameter as the one of the boxes. So let's add a box. It will be easier to work with. Box collider 2D, and like that. The size I think is correct like this. Okay, what's next? So let me check this. Okay, let's position it correctly down here just to see how it fits there. And I think that it's a little bit too much. Maybe we will need to scale it just a little bit. So maybe like we set this to 0.8, 0.8, and we bring back the collider to the size it was. Roughly, it doesn't have to be exact, but something like this will do. Okay. So this will be the base for our bomb. We will create a prefab out of that. So a prefab is an object that we have already set its properties and components. We want to save it. Then when we need it, we can create an instance of it that will have the same properties we've saved. So we go to our assets folder. We will create a folder called prefabs. Just a second, let me check if I'm recording or the video is paused. No, I'm recording. That's good. Sometimes I pause the recording and forget to put it back, and I have to record that segment again. Okay, this is good. Now for the player. We will open the player script and we will add a way to spawn bombs. So like we have done the on move here, we will create on bomb. It will take the same parameter, and if context.performed, or actually should we add it after the player removes their finger from the spacebar? So maybe context.cancelled. We will spawn a bomb. How do we do that? First of all, we need a reference for that bomb prefab we've created. So serialize field, private, game object. We'll call this one the bomb prefab. We'll assign this later in the inspector, but for now we go here and instantiate. This will create an object, bomb prefab. We will give it the position where it's going to create it. So that's going to be in the player's position, bomb prefab. And first of all, we need to get the position to, because we're going to add the 0.5 to the y, so the centers are correctly placed. We will check that later, how it works with and without it. So vector to position equals transform.position. This is the transform vector, the transform component of the player, and this is the player's position. Next, we will calculate the bomb position based on that. So bomb position equals a new vector 2, which is going to take the round position of the player, because bombs can only be placed in round positions, like not between a. Let me go back here and I'll show you an example. So wait for it to compile just a second and I'll show you an example. Let's grab prefab that we have here. So a bomb cannot be placed here, for example, or like this. It can only be placed in empty spaces, like in a full square. So here, here, here. These are the examples. Cannot be placed between two of them. Let's go back here, and it's the round position of the x coordinate. Same thing for y. So let me copy this. But for the y, we're going to add 0.5. And you'll see why in a second. Okay, that's all. We won't change anything for the z coordinates. Maybe actually we do want that, so make these two vector 3. And we will take the same z coordinate as the player. What's wrong here? There's yeah, this has to be a vector 3 too. Okay, now we will give this the position where it's going to be spawned. So bomb position and the rotation. For rotation in games, we usually do not use roller angles like the ones you see in the inspector. These ones here. These are the roller angles that we study most of the time, and they go from 0 to 360 or 2 pi if you work in radians. But for programming, we use quaternions, which has another representation of angles. It represents the rotations and the axis of rotation. It's a little bit complicated to explain right now, but all you need to know is quaternion that identity is just no rotation, so we won't rotate the bombs for now, and they will stay like that. Okay, now let's go back here, and we will assign the references. So for the player, we have down here the bomb prefab. We will assign it, and we are going to our input here. We will add the bomb action, which is going to be for now. Wait a second, what devices did I support last time? It's just keyboard. So guys, you can support any type of gamepad as I showed you last time. And here it's going to be just a button. As for the binding, for those with the gamepads and don't know which gamepad is which, and for compatibility, you can just go to here. These are east, north, south, and west. These are basically the buttons, the action buttons for gamepads like X squares, triangle, circle for PlayStation, AB, XY for Xbox, and so on. So those are the positions, and that way you don't have to assign them one by one. For me, I'm going to assign the space key here. Save this. And we are going to need our player input manager here. We're going down to events, player. For bomb here, we will drag the player and player movement controller on bomb. Okay, this should be it. So let's save and run the game. Now, if I press space, you see we have placed the bomb, but the player clipped into the walls, and bombs can be placed in walls, and that's not the behavior we want. We will fix that soon though. But now we know that we can place bombs. Let's stop this. And how do we do that? So we're going to go to our bomb prefab, and we are going to disable this box collider 2D. Don't worry though, this will make the bomb non-interactable with physics, so I can walk past it and it does not have any reaction to that, like it's not a physics object at all. But we will fix that by creating a script for the bomb. So create mono behavior script and bomb here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we need a reference for the box collider 2D. So, and it's going to be private because it's the oldest box collider 2D. Doesn't have to be in the inspector. We call this box collider. We will gain a reference for get a reference for it in the awake function, which executes before start. First thing we're going to do is to get the reference. So box collider equals get component box collider 2D, and we are going to disable it if ever it's enabled by some mistake. For example, if we forget to disable it in the prefab. So box collider 2D box collider dot enable equals false. And you know, while we're at it right now, let's set a cooldown for the bomb, a countdown. So when it runs out, it's like a timer. When it runs out, the bomb will disappear for now, but we will make it explode soon. So let's create a timer. Of course, it will be initialized at 0, and we will set the max timing for the bomb. So that will be serialized because it's going to be assigned through the inspector. So private float doesn't have to be double, we don't need that much precision. And let's set it to bomb time. Yeah, bomb time. Okay. This will be set by default to 2 seconds. And we'll see how we're going to do with that. So also here we want to always assign this to 0. Now in the update function, that's where we're going to do some stuff to detect the collision, enable the collision after the player is far enough from the bomb, so we don't clip into it. That's going to be executed every frame. So if the collider is not enabled, so if it's still disabled, which is the case by default when we start, we will calculate the distance from the player to the bomb, and that's fairly easy to do. So if, let me check if our player movement controller is, it's not a singleton for now. We will need that. So the way to do it, let me first explain what's singleton. So that object can only be created once in the scene. It only exists once, and every object can basically access it through its static member, and it's fairly easy to do, but a little different from the standard singleton, because in Unity we do not have access to the constructor of the object. So in order to do that, we will create a static reference, so public static player movement controller, and we will call this one instance. Then in the awake function, if instance is null, then instance will be equal to this. That means there was no prior object created. Else, not just else if, like for extra control here, this is defensive programming. You create the use cases that you don't want to happen, and you catch them in your statements like this for just a little bit of extra control, extra safety. And as if instance is not this, destroy game object. We destroy the game object that you don't want, because if there is another player in the scene, then that's a problem, and we will soft lock the game. Okay, also we need to do something else here, because if we leave it like this and the object is destroyed, the instance will be still in memory. So before that, on destroy, if, sorry, if instance is equal to this, like if it's this instance that's set to the static instance, we will unset it. Instance becomes null. That way we free the memory of this instance. Okay, now we're going to calculate the position from the bomb that was just instantiated to the player. We need to get the position of the player for that. So that's done by accessing this instance right here. Since it's public, we can do it simply by player movement controller dot instance, and it has everything that that component has. So we can access the transform from here, and the position minus transform of the bomb dot position. Okay, we will get the magnitude of this vector here. This will return a vector 3, and the magnitude is basically the value of the vector. Or we can get the square magnitude. It has less calculations, because the magnitude is calculated. Just a second, let me do this, and I'll tell you how the magnitude is calculated. I don't know if this will show up on screen, but the magnitude is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and the square root of these. Calculating square root is expensive, so we try to avoid that always. A simple way to do it is just calculate the square magnitude and work with that. So dot square magnitude is more than 1 unit. So if the player is far enough, basically, we're going to enable the collider. So box collider, go down here, new line, dot enabled equals true. Simple as that. Okay, now we're going to increase the timer. And we know that update is executed every frame, so we can just add the timer from the last frame to this one. And that's simply done by time time dot delta time. Delta time is the time from the previous frame to this one. And here, if timer is greater than, what did we say here? Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to change this to countdown and this to timer. That makes more sense, I guess. Oh yeah. Ignore this right now. It's just serialized. Previously serialized as it. This is just for the inspector to keep the old value, but it's not important. Okay. So if countdown is greater than time now, timer, the bomb will explode. For now, explode will only have one thing inside of it, and that's going to be destroy game object. So private void explode destroy game object. Okay, let's go back to Unity, wait for it to compile, and we go to the bomb prefab. Don't forget to do this step. If it's prefab, we assign the script for the prefab. We don't create another game object for it. And here, bombs timer is set to 2, and let's try it. So I'll press space here. You see that I'm not pushed away and the bomb disappears after 2 seconds. Now let's test the collision. So I'm placing the bomb, trying to go back, and you see I cannot go through it. So I think this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You've learned new stuff. Thank you for watching this far. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next part. Goodbye.